You blamed your own hands for that thin, disappointing ginger, but the crop was already decided before the root ever went in the soil. The gap between a poor harvest and a heavy one is not about talent, and it is not luck. Growers who know what they are doing close that gap with 3 small choices, the kind they make without thinking, the kind no home gardener is ever told. Every one of them happens before the plant shows a single leaf. The first starts the moment you pick the root. The next 2 decide what happens once it is in the ground. Miss one, and the season is lost before it begins. Around 25 BCE, the Emperor Augustus sent Roman soldiers into the deserts of the Arabian Peninsula. There were many reasons. One of them was a root. By then, ginger had already traveled further than almost any army. People first pulled it from the ground in Southeast Asia nearly 5,000 years ago. Seafarers carried it across the Pacific in canoes, then planted it along the shores of India and China long before Rome existed. By the 2nd century, it was moving along the Silk Road into Roman kitchens, perfumes, and medicine. And Rome wanted that supply for itself. But the people who sold it were hiding something worth more than the spice. For hundreds of years, the Arab traders who controlled the routes kept the true source a secret. They made up stories about far-off lands so no buyer could ever trace where it grew. By some accounts, half a kilo of it once cost as much as a live sheep, a fortune for a knob of root. The knowledge was the real product. The plant was only the excuse. The root kept moving. In 1547, Spanish settlers planted it in the soil of Jamaica and shipped it back across the Atlantic, one of the first spices grown in the New World. And in England, Queen Elizabeth I gave her royal baker an odd order: shape spiced cakes to look like her visiting guests. The gingerbread man was born at a royal table as a gift for visiting nobles. Even a cookie carried a message. For thousands of years, this one root was guarded, taxed, hidden, and fought over. And that habit of keeping the knowledge just out of reach never really went away. Because the piece of ginger sitting in your kitchen right now was treated on purpose so it would never wake up. The growers who succeed know to reach past that treated pile for an organic root. Soak it overnight until it swells, and let the cut ends dry into a firm, healed skin before it ever touches soil. That is the first thing they know, and the first thing no one tells you. So, what is inside this root that made empires chase it? Mostly 2 things, compounds called gingerol and shogal. Inside the body, they work on the same 2 enzymes, COX1 and COX2, that ibuprofen and aspirin switch off. So, this is not just folklore. It is the very same pathway as the pill in your medicine cabinet. Those 2 enzymes are the switch that turns inflammation on in the first place. The swelling, the soreness, the ache that sends you reaching for a pill. Ginger doesn't mask that ache. It works the same lever that turns it down. Researchers at the University of Georgia decided to test it. They gave 74 people 2 grams of ginger a day, then had them work their muscles until the muscles were sore and strained. The ginger group felt about a quarter less pain than the group given a fake pill. The researchers even said it might work as well as standard anti-inflammatory drugs for this. A quarter less pain doesn't sound dramatic on paper, but ask anyone recovering from a hard day of digging, lifting, or garden work what a quarter less soreness feels like the next morning. And dramatic is exactly the word they use. Then there is what it quietly carries. Gram for gram, fresh ginger root holds more potassium than a banana, around 415 milligrams in every 100 against a banana's 358. It is closer to a mineral supplement than a spice. Potassium isn't a minor nutrient. It's what keeps muscles firing correctly and fluid balance steady in every cell in your body. The same job a sports drink is trying to do, minus the sugar. A pain reliever and a potassium source, growing from a knob you could hold in one hand. So, why has no one ever shown you how to grow it? The answer is not some big conspiracy. It is something quieter, and in a way harder to undo. Start with that treated piece in the store. The chemical that stops it from sprouting is the same kind used on potatoes, garlic, and onions. A sprout blocker, sprayed on to keep it firm and sellable through long shipping trips. It is legal, it is normal, and it is there for one reason. Almost none of the ginger sold here is actually grown here. The United States barely grows any ginger at all. In 2019, the whole country grew around 638 metric tons, 26th in the world, while India grew its ginger by the millions of tons. What little it once produced came mostly from Hawaii, and since around 2006, a disease that rots the plant has quietly spread through those fields, shrinking them year after year. So the shelves get filled from somewhere else: China, Brazil, Thailand, Central America. Root that has to survive weeks in transit before it reaches you. It was never bred to sprout in your backyard. It was bred to survive the trip to your shelf. Here's the detail that tells you everything. There is no official American grade standard for ginger. None. The trade quietly borrows the rules from Hawaii and Fiji because the country never wrote its own. A crop with no home industry, no standard, and no place beyond the import aisle has no one with a reason to teach you how to grow it. That is not an accident of the market. It is the shape of it. Nobody makes money from a plant you can grow once and never buy again. So no one ever stood up to explain how. The quiet around this root is not a sign that it is worthless. It is the surest sign of how much it is worth. Here is how you take it back, with the piece you already dried. Forget the deep pot. Ginger grows sideways, not down. So pick a wide, shallow container. 30 to 40 centimeters across is plenty. Fill it with 2 parts potting soil, 1 part aged compost, 1 part perlite, and a good handful of bone meal mixed through for phosphorus. Now, listen closely, because this is the step almost everyone gets wrong. Plant it shallow, no more than 3 to 5 centimeters down, with the buds facing up. Bury it deep, the way instinct says, and it just sits there and rots. Keep it near the surface, with morning sun and afternoon shade, and it wakes up. Then comes the trick the pros rely on. Once the plant is settled and leafy, you never pull the whole thing out. You dig gently at the outer edge, snap off 1 piece of fresh root, and cover the rest back over. The plant keeps growing. You keep harvesting. 1 root feeds you for months, not just once. This was never hard knowledge. It was only knowledge kept quiet. There is one more thing this plant does if you let it. When you finally lift a full-grown clump, set aside the biggest, firmest pieces, the ones with the most buds. Those become next season's planting stock, and the season after, you save again from those. Every year, with no lab and no catalog, you are quietly picking out the strongest root you have ever grown, from a line that started with a single knob off a store shelf. Think about what that means. 1 root, bought once, can seed every crop you grow for the rest of your life. You never have to buy it again. Once it is in your soil, no one can really own it. And here is the part almost no one believes until they see it. This is a tropical plant, and yet gardeners are pulling heavy harvests from cold greenhouses as far north as the American Northeast, where the ground freezes solid for half the year, which leaves one strange question. If it can grow there, in the last place on Earth it was ever meant to,